Just a couple of months ago, I never saw myself getting a product like this on the channel, but quite a few people have asked for this now, and I have a responsibility to deliver. Now we know that the Dualsense Edge is good, just with all the feedback and the fact that they're so popular, but are they actually worth the money? Let's find out. I picked up my very own Dualsense Edge to find out. Even the default Dualsense that comes straight out of the box with your PS5s, they are good controllers. Opening the box, it comes with this really nice carrying case. And this carrying case, I do prefer it to the Elite Series 2 one. This one is white. However, it's going to be much easier to clean because it's got a hard plastic surface rather than like a woven texture. The Elite Series 2 case, should you spill anything on it or if it gets dirty, it can be quite difficult to clean. This one, a quick wipe, will bring it back looking like new again. Opening up the case to find what we have inside, we do have a nice braided cable. It's quite long. It's got the official PlayStation logos. Some braided cables can even feel quite cheap, but this one looks nice and flexible, which means it's not going to easily get caught on things. But of course, we didn't pay $200 for a cable. Taking a look at the controller, at first glance, it looks like just a standard Dualsense, but the extra features that this one comes with are really what sets it apart. Let's take a look at everything else that we get in the case first. We do get 2 additional paddles that we can attach to the controller. However, this is not like the Elite Series 2, where you can add these paddles to make a total of 4. You can only have 2 at a time on this one. So by default, they come with this kind of like half moon shape, and you can swap those out for the longer paddles if you prefer it, but you can't have both types on at once. It does also come with this cable lock, and a lot of people see this as a really nice thing to have, especially if your controller has a lot of heavy use. However, I find this to be less effective than I expected. Certainly it will stop your cable from falling out of the controller while gaming, but unless you're playing Wii Sports, that's less likely to happen. What's actually more likely to happen is the cable to wiggle around in the port, and over time make it become loose, or even damage it altogether so that it stops working, or intermittently starts disconnecting. And this cable lock doesn't really do a very good job of that. Like I said, it will stop the cable coming out, but it still does wiggle around when attached and doesn't provide the best support. We've also got 4 additional thumbstick caps that we can put on the controller. So these are all domed, and we've got a domed default height, and we've got a domed taller stick as well. We do seem to have 2 of each. I'm not too sure why. I would have definitely expected different types of caps in here, or making each one different. I don't understand why you need 2 of each. Plus, the dome stick, although these ones are nice and grippy, they're kind of like the style of old PlayStation 2 controllers or PlayStation 3 controllers. So they've got a decent amount of grip, but they're not usually one that you're going to have on the right-hand side. So for the right-hand side, for FPS games anyway, you're pretty much stuck with this one. So your only option for this one, in my opinion, is sticking a Control Freak on here. But it's nice that they included something at all. I mean, some controllers don't even come with the option to interchange the thumbstick caps at all. So it's still a nice feature, but I don't think they're going to be as useful to most people as you might think. Other than that, that is literally all that you get in the case. You don't get a charging dock, that is sold separately. You also don't get an additional thumbstick module because these are interchangeable. You can swap them out very easily, and I'll show you that in a sec. But it doesn't come with an extra, you do have to buy them separately. Now, taking a closer look at the controller itself, like I said, it looks pretty much identical to a Dualsense that comes with your PS5. The exact same shape, size, and a very similar weight as well, probably a little bit heavier. The D-pad is exactly the same, so you've still got membrane buttons there, and it's still that little bit wiggly D-pad. Nothing is different there. The face buttons are exactly the same. The 2 buttons at the top are also exactly the same. The bumpers are exactly the same, and the triggers are also pretty much exactly the same with a couple of minor differences. So we do have like a textured pattern on the triggers, which adds a little bit of extra grip, although not really necessary if you ask me. It's a nice feature, especially when you're paying such a premium for a controller, but not something that's an absolute game changer. But for the triggers, we also do have these trigger stops, which turn your triggers into short triggers. But these are literally just trigger stops. They're not tactile switches. I was actually quite disappointed to see this, because I would have really liked to see some sort of tactile micro switch, because I do like those, especially for FPS games. But no, it's just a trigger stop, but it does work pretty well, although it's probably still got a little bit more travel on it than you would expect. The Scuff Reflex controller definitely does have better triggers, especially for FPS games. The touchpad is pretty much exactly the same and it will do the same things, but it's a slightly different design, and you can customize this in the PlayStation Accessories app. Analog sticks, these are the usual potentiometers that you'll find in a PS5 controller, but that's not really much to complain about. Most people manage to go about a year without really getting any noticeable stick drift, but again, you've got that added benefit of being able to swap these out if needed. Just below these though, you do have these function keys. When I first saw these, I thought it was great that they threw these on here, and I thought I would be able to remap them and use them for things in game, but that is not the case. These are literally just for switching profiles. You can use them for volume controls as well, but again, that's not really something that you're going to be using very often, so 2 extra dedicated buttons for that kind of thing doesn't exactly wow me. It does have a 3.5mm headphone jack, and it is compatible with Dualsense charging docks as well, just like your standard PS5 controller. We do have a little bit of rubber textured grip around here, and I think this is actually really, really nice. The rest is just kind of like a matte plastic, but it has got a little bit of texture to it to add a bit of extra grip, but it's not the grippiest thing. But this rubber here is actually really nice, but a lot of users have actually reported this to start bubbling and peeling off, as it seems to be just stuck down by adhesive, but these are replaceable from what I've found, so you can get replacement ones and fit them quite easily yourself, should yours start peeling or bubbling off. But that's not the best thing to be hearing, especially for a controller that costs this much. 2 rear paddles. Now, these half moon things look a little bit weird on photos and videos, and it makes you wonder, how is that even comfortable? But actually, I tested out both the paddles and these little half moon paddles, and I actually prefer these ones to the longer ones, simply because they're a little bit higher up, and for how I hold the controller, they're in a much more comfortable place. These back paddles are really, really good though. It takes just the perfect amount of pressure to press them down, but you can still have your fingers on them to have a bit of grip of the controller without accidentally pressing them. So these paddles are absolutely some of the best that I've used. To swap out the thumbstick modules, there's a little release tab right here, and you just flick that, and then this panel comes off, exposing the sticks, and then you've just got to lift up these little tabs right here, and it just falls right out. This is a really neat feature, and especially if you do want a controller to last a very, very long time, joysticks are definitely the first thing to fail on most controllers, so it's nice that you can swap these out. At least with this controller being so expensive, you are reassured that you're not going to be needing to buy a replacement anytime soon, unless something else fails, of course. Other than that, you've got your usual DualSense features, so your gyroscope, your speaker, your microphone, with the mute button, but of course they're all features that come with a standard DualSense. Now don't get me wrong, this is a great controller, amongst one of the best, especially since you can use this thing on your PS5 console and on PC, and as we know, PlayStation 5s do not have a lot of options when it comes to Pro controllers, so the fact that Sony's given us one that's natively supported and doesn't sacrifice any features from the original DualSense is actually really, really nice. There's not really much to complain about with this controller. The bumpers are a fan favorite. I do actually really like these bumpers, even though they are just the same as what you'd find on pretty much any PlayStation controller. The face buttons, again, all membrane, and the spongy, squishy D-pad does still work very, very well, but you're not getting anything special. The extra rubber pads for the grip are a really nice addition, although not absolutely necessary if you ask me. The back paddles work really, really well. The analog sticks also feel super precise. They're definitely not going to be holding you back in anything competitive. Now, I'm just going to bring my DualSense controller into the mix for a second, as there's a few things I need to point out. Obviously, anybody wanting to keep using a DualSense controller with the same shape, size, layout, and everything else, but have the added benefit of back paddles on the rear, that alone is not a reason to be buying the Dualsense Edge. Simply because my DualSense does actually have paddles on the back. This is a third-party kit that you can get, and it's very, very easy to install. No soldering required, and it's very cheap as well. You can actually get these for about $20 and just stick these right on your DualSense controller. Now, additionally, my DualSense controller does have a few cosmetic features. So it's got a custom faceplate and this panel down here, and it's also got gloss black buttons with no icons on them. But obviously, they're all cosmetic. The only other thing that I've changed in terms of performance is the thumbstick caps. These are actually now interchangeable, so I can swap them out for different cap tops and also put different heights on here as well. So this is an added benefit that actually the DualSense Edge doesn't have, because I can put concave on here, or I can put a PlayStation style one, and also there are 3 different heights to choose from with these, and this modification was less than $5 and super easy to install, especially if you're putting the back paddles on as well, so you can do it at the same time. So obviously this is not a standard DualSense. you can build this exact controller with all these features for less than $90. Sure, you can't swap out the analog sticks if you get stick drift, that's still going to be an issue. But I've had this controller now for about 6 months, and still no issues yet. And these are some of the most accurate analog sticks that I have actually used. But to be honest, you can now pick up these controllers, default PS5 controllers, for anywhere from $45 to $60, which is not really much more than buying replacement joystick modules for the Dualsense Edge. So now comes the big question, value for money. Is the Dualsense Edge a great controller and should you buy it? Well, the answer to both of those questions are not the same. Yes, the Dualsense Edge is one of the best controllers I've ever used. It's super comfortable, the features it offers work really, really well on PC and on PS5, and if you do play on a PS5 console, this is the absolute best thing you can buy for it. Is it worth buying though? In my opinion, I know some people are probably going to disagree with me in the comments, but no, I've got to say, this controller is extremely poor value for money. The price of this controller should be much cheaper than it is. I know it does offer a nice big bag of features, but when you can just take your standard DualSense and add the extra features on here, as well as much more, you can add in smart triggers, which turn them into tactile micro switches. You can do that with all the face buttons as well. I'm struggling to find a reason why. Even in the software to customize the DualSense Edge, there aren't as many features in there as you would expect. It's fairly basic. So it's things like obviously remapping the rear paddles as well as every other button on the controller. You can remap these to anything that you want. You can save custom profiles. You can change how the triggers behave, like the dead zones. Same with the joysticks as well. You can also change how the joysticks respond, which is another nice feature as well. But other than that, there's not much more it can offer. And especially if you're playing on PC, there are definitely controllers that you can get for less than half the price of this one that offer way more features. If you'd like me to do a guide on how to build your DualSense exactly like this one and even more, then let me know in the comments and drop a like on this video. And if you're not already, smash that subscribe button down below and turn on that notification icon so you never miss a future upload. That's it from me. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.